Finn and the Midnight Snowman. Outside Finn's window, the world was blanketed in the quietest, deepest Christmas Eve snow. Finn, tucked into his warm bed, could barely keep his eyes closed. In his garden stood his best winter friend, Glimmer, the snowman. Finn had given him a bright red scarf and a hat that always tilted just a bit to the left. Glimmer was a very particular snowman. He had 3 big charcoal buttons, a tiny twig nose, instead of a carrot because he didn't like rabbits, and a smile made of cheerful round pebbles. As the clock struck midnight, a tiny silvery light flickered inside Glimmer's button eyes. Finn watched in silent wonder as Glimmer suddenly stirred. Glimmer stretched his arms wide. Crack! Ooh, a little bit stiff, he mumbled, his voice a gentle, frosty whisper. He bent his snowy knees in a funny little bounce. Glimmer turned and looked straight at Finn's window. He lifted a snowy hand and beckoned. Come, Finn. His voice was like the gentle crunch of fresh snow. A whoosh of crisp, clean air swirled into Finn's room as the window slid open by itself. Tonight is our night, dear boy. You're on the VIP list. Finn grabbed his favorite boots, but couldn't find his coat. Wait, where is my coat? He whispered, scrambling under the quilt. Glimmer chuckled, a sound like distant sleigh bells. Oh, forget the coat, Glimmer boomed from outside. You won't need it where we're going. I'm a walking, talking overcoat. Finn laughed and scrambled onto the snowy sill. Finn climbed out, and Glimmer reached down and scooped him up gently, holding him close right inside the curve of his round, cool chest. Whoosh! Glimmer suddenly sprang into the air. He didn't flap or flutter. He just lifted. Finn squeezed his button shoulder and looked down at the rapidly shrinking house. They soared high above the sleeping town. The streetlights looked like tiny yellow stars, and the roofs were frosted wedding cakes. Look, that one looks like a giant grumpy polar bear. Finn pointed at a particularly lumpy roof. Glimmer tilted his top hat. That's Mrs. Higgins's house. She is a bit grumpy. They flew to the very top of the highest hill, where hundreds of snowmen from every garden in the county had gathered. The air crackled with silent, snowy energy. Glimmer introduced Finn to the nearest group. This is my friend Finn, the warmest guest we've ever had. The snowmen waved their twig arms and cheered a silent, wonderful cheer. Snowmen with carrot noses and coal eyes were dancing slow, happy jigs. One, named Jasper, was juggling 3 perfect, glowing snowballs. He never dropped one. Ahem, coughed a tiny snowman with a twig sticking out of his head like a broken antenna. Too much excitement. It's unsnowy. This was Barnaby, the grumpy snowman. Don't mind, Barnaby, Glimmer whispered. He's worried he'll melt if he has too much fun. Then he pointed at a sign. Official Moonlight Snowball Toss. Only gentle glittering allowed. The snowball toss was the main event. Finn watched as 2 snowmen, using their twig hands like catapults, gently launched glittering snowballs back and forth. Finn grabbed a handful of sparkling snow. He made a perfect miniature snowball and tossed it to Glimmer. Glimmer caught it, but his whole arm came off with a soft thump. Oh, pardon me, Glimmer said, reattaching his arm. Always happens when I get too excited. Now, come meet the choir. He led Finn towards a circle of very tall snowmen. The choir was singing a song that sounded exactly like the whoosh of a frosty window, followed by 100 tiny, high-pitched chill, chill, chill. It wasn't exactly melodic, but it was hilarious. Just as the sky turned the softest, prettiest shade of gray-pink, Glimmer checked his button wrist. Time to fly, my friend, he whispered, scooping Finn up one last time. They flew quietly back, over the still sleeping town. Glimmer gently placed Finn back into his bed, pulling the quilt up to his chin. Merry Christmas, my friend, he whispered. Until next year, Finn murmured, already half asleep. He snuggled deep into his pillows. He was cold, happy, and ready for Christmas morning. Glimmer was just a snowman again, waiting patiently in the garden.